Hi, I'm Kat Hamilton, and I'm going to be introducing y'all to the misrepresentation of American Sign Language in deaf culture in mass film media, meaning popular and mainstream movies, TVs, that sort of thing. And I'm going to be calling for inclusive representation, but maybe not in the way that you think. So before we begin, we need to note that the capitalization of deaf community and culture is very important to indicate the pride the deaf community has in their culture. Okay, this is not the same thing as lowercase d deaf, lowercase c community, etc. It's not improper grammar. It has a meaning. Okay, and the term hearing impaired is offensive, should never be used, not only in this type of research, but ever. So now you know. Okay. So before we get into how things are now, it's important to understand how we got there. And an important step in that, in understanding how our culture has kind of evolved, is the Milan Conference of 1880. It heavily discredited sign language, and it came over to America and brought this massive wave of anti-deaf culture. And understanding the rhetoric that the Milan Conference actually had, you're going to understand more of what we see today. Okay, so one, it says, this is the English translation, giving the incontestable superiority of speech over signs in restoring deaf mutes to society and in giving them a more perfect knowledge of language, that the oral method ought to be preferred to signs. And two, considering that the simultaneous use of speech and signs has the disadvantage of injuring speech, lip reading, and precision of ideas, that the pure oral method ought to be preferred, right? This was heavily ingrained in American culture, honestly, still today. So before we get to the next stuff, I would like to introduce you guys to a sign. So get your hands up. Okay. With your non-dominant hand, place it flat, right? And with your dominant hand, do the number 5. Put that against your index finger and shake it. What does the sign kind of remind you of? If you said one of those old school movie films, you would be correct. This is the sign for movie, and it comes from the golden era, as it is referred as. So from 1893 to 1923, we had the era of silent films, and this is huge, especially for the deaf community. Silent films provided equal access and opportunity. This new film industry really allowed for deaf actors and deaf audience viewers to really experience this new form of media. Okay, we had deaf actors, for instance, Emerson Romero, aka Tony Albertson, who I have pictured here. But eventually that ended. We had the talkies. When you have technology, eventually technology moves forward, right? So here we have pictured Jane Wyman, a hearing actress, and she won an Oscar for Best Actress in the film Johnny Belinda in 1948. She was a hearing woman, and she played a deaf woman on TV, okay? And winning an award for that horrendous depiction, honestly, you've probably never seen it. Don't go out of your way. Deaf culture and American Sign Language in film, the standards are set. Okay, we saw a woman win an award for this. Low, low, low standards, and that's what started it all. And now we have today. So we're talking about, 1948. That's a long time ago, right? It's still that way. Let's look at the movie Hush from 2016. This film is hugely popular. It came out on Netflix. It has a 93% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And it had the tagline, "Silence can be killer." Okay, very important. The entire plot revolves around a deaf woman being deaf. That's the plot line. That's how the plot advances. This actress not only wasn't deaf, there were no deaf crew, no interpreters to teach her sign language. It was very clear to anyone fluent in sign language that she didn't really know what she was doing. So ASL is its own language, and a really important part of ASL is called non-manual markers. So a current count of non-manual markers is 14. You got the head, the shoulders, the torso, eyebrows, your eyeballs, what you're looking at, your eyelids, your nose, your mouth, how your mouth is shaped, the tongue, the cheeks, the chin. All of those are very important to grammar. You can have the same hand movement and have your lips in a different position, and it's a different sign. So when you're looking at movies like Hush trying to depict ASL, a lot of hearing people are going to be watching this and not really understanding that she is not deaf and she is not articulating correctly. They're going to take that information into real life and they're going to assume that's how it is. So it's not that the deaf community doesn't have its own media. It does. It's just separate, and that is the issue. Okay, let's look at Super Deafy 2013. If you are part of the deaf community or you know someone in the deaf community, you've heard of this movie. Okay, great movie. It's only available on DVD. It's hard to find, it's hard to get. Switch to Birth 2011. Great film. You've probably heard about it. It had a lot of deaf actresses and actors. The main actress, who was supposed to be deaf, does not consider herself a part of the deaf community, but instead uses, in her own words, a deaf accent to sound deaf to the hearing audience. Okay, this movie is free on 2 platforms, and it's available on 2 very popular streaming sites. Okay, it's not that we don't have accurate, positive representation. It's that hearing people consume media made for hearing people, and they don't seek out these other things, and even if they did, they're hard to find. One movie that's attempting to bridge the gap is Coda 2021. You've probably heard about it, okay? But this is a great example of hearing media for hearing people. Now, this movie tried very hard, and they did get a lot of things right, so the deaf community is often hesitant to criticize. But if you look at how it is actually filmed, we have close-ups, think this box, to medium close-ups, think this box, instead of shots that actually capture the signs. All right, it's kind of like trying to listen to an audio and every third word is cut out. It's not for deaf people. Okay, the actress, the main actress, the coda, is not a real child of a deaf adult. So a lot of stuff is wrong. And even if it wasn't wrong, this movie, even though it is not perfect, still sits behind the paywall of Apple TV, so it is still not acceptable. So I wanted to see exactly what the deaf community had to say, because we know it's a problem. Do they care? So I sent out a survey that was not only written in English, but actually had interpretations in ASL provided for each question so that people could access this with their native language. All right. We asked about accuracy of ASL portrayal, accuracy of deaf characters, deaf culture representation, linguistic and cultural diversity, deaf life portrayal, and then we actually did a personal interview so I could find out more about their answers. So some interesting responses were the actual lived experiences and challenge faced by deaf individuals. Okay, most people in the deaf community thought that even if there is a deaf character included, even if they know sign language, people are not writing those characters to capture any of the real life experiences and challenges. Okay, and obviously, how likely are you to support or watch movies that feature authentic representation of American Sign Language and deaf culture? Almost everybody rated this a 10, right? So in the interviews, I asked, what was the best representation of ASL or deaf culture that you've seen in a popular TV show or movie, right? Every single interview participant mentioned Children of a Lesser God. And I'd like to read for you what someone said in the interview. So they said, my first partner had a hearing aid and we were watching the movie. I was asking questions. I was picking up a little bit of baby signing, asking a lot of questions. I asked my boyfriend, why don't you sign? Then I asked the babysitter, why don't they sign? So this is a great example of media making a huge real life difference. Okay, if you have a movie that is accurate, This movie has nothing to do with autism. They're not trying to dramatize anything. We got Marlee Matlin. It's a great love story. This brings conversation to people in real life that is important. And the hearing audience that watches this are not going to leave with any stereotypes or assumptions that they're going to throw onto any deaf person they meet. Okay? And then we also have Craig of the Creek. This is a cartoon. They cartoonized sign language, and they did it correctly. This is fairly new. This was 2022, just last year. What's important about this is that more than 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents. Okay, if you are a deaf child and you're born to someone in the deaf community, you're going to see those movies like Super Deafy because they have those DVDs. But if you don't, and you're just watching Disney Channel, you see this on TV, that's for you, and that is important. That is why this representation needs to be crossed into hearing media, okay? So 3 emerging trends I'd like to talk about is avoiding tokenism and exaggerated autism. So a quote that I thought really captured this: "Stop creating movies that show deaf people as less than, looked down upon. Show our experiences, yes, and yes when we're oppressed, but show real experiences, not these exaggerated experiences of autism. Show how we live and experience life authentically." Okay, it is not enough to add a deaf character and then give them this little trauma porn moment that hearing people can really, throw all their love out and infantilize that character. No. Be cautious of camera angles. So directors need to better frame their camera in regards to placement of arm movements, all right? Even if you are hiring the best deaf actors and actresses, if you do not cautiously and knowingly frame your camera to capture those signs, it is meaningless, okay? And then purposely involve deaf cast and crew. This should be obvious, and yet it is not, okay? If you are not actively seeking out not only deaf actors for when you're shooting, but seeking out advisors when you're writing a deaf character into a show to understand how you should portray them. Not only, having an actor who can sign fluently and beautifully on screen, but what they're signing and their relation to the plot is also very important. All right. And then overall, everyone agreed. Don't add a deaf character just to add a deaf character. Most people agree that it's better to not add a deaf character at all than to add a half-assed one. All right. So now you know all this information. I've thrown it at you. You're aware of the problem now. What are you going to do? Pay attention. I'm not asking you to go into deaf studies or read a bunch of literature on the topic or go picket outside Hollywood. You don't need to do that. All you need to do is be aware and pay attention. When you're watching something on TV or you're watching a movie and you recognize, oh, hey, that character is supposed to be deaf, or hey, that character is using sign language. Pause the show, pause the movie, take a quick Google search, Google a name, deaf actor, ? If the answer is no, stop watching it. You need to hold production companies accountable. We all do. We all do. And the only way to do that is withholding your viewership. So you don't need to know anything except how to use Google. That's what you can do. So thank you very much. I'd like to give a special thanks to the McNair program at University of Texas at Arlington, and of course Dr. Lisa Lee Egbert, my wonderful mentor. And now I'd like to open the room up to questions.